Welcome back to the Culture of Currency, where today we're talking about an illegal piece of metal that got the FBI involved. Maybe you have one of these laying around, but the really interesting story behind some of these copper pieces that were sent in the mail, as promised, I told you I'd go in depth on them because there's something very interesting and promising in the future about using real metal like copper, silver, gold in transactions, but it all started right here with this, which was contraband taken up by the FBI. So, as you see, it says Liberty. This is Liberty Dollar. Sorry, by the way, my voice is still recovering from a sickness, but this is a 2007 Liberty Dollar. This is a copper variety. And it is an AV ounce right there. We can try to get you a zoom on here and see some details on it before we go into why this was considered illegal in many senses by the FBI, and there was a raid and all this kind of stuff. It is beautiful. As you can see, this one has some wear on it, which means it was probably used in some transactions. Notice you see the USA right here. That would be an issue. So a lot of people consider this a medallion and not a coin, though it does have a value. And that's part of the issue of what this ran into, is that it came into a conjunction with what legally could be used in this country. So this was created by a guy named Bernard von Nothaus, the Liberty Dollar. And basically, this guy created this, and he was a co-founder of the Royal Hawaiian Mint as well. But he was convicted of counterfeiting in 2011. Like I said, this is a 2007. And he was also accused, but I'm not sure if he was convicted, of domestic terrorism. He was sentenced to 3 years in probation and released from probation after serving 1, which is fairly standard. But basically, according to the evidence introduced in 2011, federal crimes were in connection with his involvement with this Liberty Dollar. He had the silver ones, he had the copper ones, and I believe he had gold too. Von Nothaus was the founder of an organization called the National Organization for the Repeal of the Federal Reserve and Internal Revenue Code, commonly known as NORFED, and known as Liberty Services. The FBI claimed that NORFED's purpose was to mix Liberty dollars into the current money of the United States, and that NORFED intended for the Liberty dollar to be used as current money in order to limit reliance and to compete with the United States currency. The silver round was the most popular version. I have the copper version today, but it was just like this, made of 1 ounce of 999 silver, and instead of 1 troy ounce, it was an AV ounce, as you see this one. But yeah, it was made in different types of denominations and that type of thing. So in September of 2006, which is 1 year before this coin, the U.S. Mint informed Liberty Dollar and their users that federal prosecutors had determined that the circulation of these medallions as legal tender would be a federal crime. It claimed that people were told or led to believe that they were U.S. currency, but proponents of the Liberty Dollar were cautioned against making such a claim. Rather, they were told that it was an item of barter, and they could therefore lawfully exchange one item for another, which is, definitely something of an idea that I don't think you could argue in court. If I have a sack of flour and I want to trade it for a sack of oats, then that could be a lawful exchange. So if it is just an item of value and not a coin or dollar, but a bartering token, then where does that line go? I don't know. But in 2007, which is the year this coin is, incidentally, a dozen federal agents, seized nearly 2 tons of the coins that featured an image of Ron Paul, which at that time was a libertarian Texas congressman. You probably know his son, Rand Paul, who's a Kentucky congressman right now. They took about 500 pounds of silver and 40 to 50 ounces of gold. Von Nothaus and others sued the government on behalf of the many people who were the lawful owners of the silver and gold. And despite the 2011 conviction of Bernard von Nothaus, the charges related to the manufacture and distribution of Liberty dollars, there was actually a U.S. District Court judge who ruled in 2014 that the seized silver and gold were not deemed as contraband and should be returned pursuant to ownership's claims. So that's a little legal win there. So that is kind of the founding of this idea. And so after that failed, a new idea sprung up, which is where these coins come into play. Let me zoom out. These are going to be a second wave of the same idea, learning from the first idea. As you can see, we have varying types of ideas, but for the most part, we all see copper here. There were silver versions as well. And what these are medallions, I guess you'd say, though some might consider them coins, that are AOCS, which stand for the American Open Currency Standard, which you see stamped on some of these. If I were to pull them out, you'd see them, such as right here. The American Open Currency Standard was developed to allow gold, silver, and copper to be used in commercial trade and barter. Coins that are AOCS approved should not be confused with the Liberty Dollar, which was discontinued after court battles. AOCS was part of a legal bartering system and does not claim to be legal tender, unlike what we saw in the ill-fated Liberty Dollar. So what does the AOCS do? Well, it has a common set of standards for the legion of community currencies cropping up around the states. The reliable, documented standards allow communities and individuals to create their own medallion designs, such as this one right here that's actually a podcast about this type of stuff. So they could create their own design, and basically as long as they stay within the regulated weight requirements and purity requirements, then it could be a serviceable trade unit. Besides establishing the standards, the AOCS facilitates and encourages the expansion of merchant marketplace as a catalog of businesses that accept these approved copper, silver, and gold medallions for goods and services. So the standard also establishes a rate of exchange between AOCS, silver, gold, and copper, and fiat currencies like the dollar. So that being said, there were actual places around the United States where you could have this instead of fiat currency and literally have merchants who accept this for their goods. How crazy is that this was pre-goldback, which we see goldback in a couple of states right now, and silverbacks that you can use in certain businesses. But this was an idea that predates that, that was actually working out in the real world. So according to the AOCS, this was different from other measures of trade. They have a law, a financial law called Gresham's Law that was actually developed quite a long time ago. I want to say it was in the 1500s or something, but I cannot remember. But basically, in Gresham's Law, they understood because of the debasing of currencies that bad money basically would end up taking over good money. And that's because, as Congressional law states, any circulating currency consists of both good and bad money. Both forms are required to be accepted at equal value as legal tender under law. Quickly, we see that bad money becomes the dominant money, and that's because people spending money will hand over the bad coins rather than the good ones, keeping the good ones for themselves. So if I have 200 dimes, let's say, and 40 of them are silver, you better believe I'm going to hold the silver dimes and get rid of the ones that aren't. So legal tender acts as a form of price control. In such cases, the intrinsic less valuable money is preferred in exchange because people prefer to save the intrinsically more valuable money. That's basically Gresham's Law. So the idea is that in fiat currencies, as you know, it's not real money, but notes that are to represent money. And so people are willing to hand those over and keep their metals. We see that all the time. Although gold, silver, and copper have intrinsic value, the fact that their dollar value can be so unpredictable is precisely the reason that most investors find it too risky to use precious metals for trading. According to the AOCS theory, the standard serves as a temporary bridge between the world government-imposed fiat currencies and a free market system where commodities and other values are actively traded in a marketplace. Interestingly enough, in August of 2012, Robert Gray, who is executive director of the American Open Currency Standard, went on the record before Ron Paul and the Domestic Monetary Policy Subcommittee to speak his mind on complementary currencies. And he quotes, "I suggest to you that if your grandparents wouldn't recognize something as money, don't accept it or spend it." So basically, we can look at that transcript. In fact, it's right here online. I have it pulled up. I might put a link in the description. You can look at the transcript of his Robert Gray's speaking to the federal government about this. But let's go ahead and take a look closer at these coins. I'll pull one out for you just so you can get an idea of what it looks like. This one, I think, is my favorite. I love the bee skeep on it. But yeah, you could have a merchant create something. So this is actually a honey manufacturer that's still in business today. Money as good as honey. Beautiful design, as you can see. How gorgeous is that? Shop with a friend. And we see that this has the 2 units on it. And we see that Capo, whatever that says. I looked up the website, and they actually are a honey maker. Honey.com. You see 1 AV ounce, which is the weight of these, which is not the weight that we use in troy ounces, but the weight that we'd use for marketable goods like flour and that type of thing, that type of weight. 3/9 fine copper. We see that it's AOCS approved. So this merchant went and had this created, distributed, and it's also like a little calling card for their business, which is really, really cool. So what do you think about this kind of stuff? Do you think that it is a net good that this should be offered? I know we have gold backs and things like that now, which are government backed. But do you think this is something that we could eventually get to? I know that this failed, just like the Liberty Dollar did, not for the same reasons. It wasn't illegal, but you had differing opinions on leadership on what should happen. It kind of put it at a standstill. For example, Mulligan Mint, which is this one right here, had a differing idea than some of the AOCS people. But as you can see, there's a Christmas one here. I believe that's a reverse, so we'll turn it around. A Second Amendment, a Mulligan Mint. Here's another honey one right here. Reed Atlas Shrugged. There's a Lakota tribe, which is a Native American tribe up in South Dakota, I believe, the Lakota people of the Sioux. We've got the pickaxes or rock hammers here. Reverses. As you can see, there's the podcaster. There's that Mulligan Mint and the Second Amendment. So really cool stuff. Just wanted to bring that to your attention. I want to know what you think about it. Is this something that should be pursued? Are the gold backs something that we're going to be getting into? But I thought it was interesting. Thought you'd like it. But that's all I have. So remember, as always, please stay classy and current with the culture of currency.